What is the reason behind enormous success behind Tron TRX? How it managed to go from nothing to one of the top 15 cryptocurrencies in just 8 years? That and every other question will be answered by the end of today's video. And same as every video on Bitcoin Academy, this one is also 100% beginner friendly, so you won't have any problem following even if you don't know anything. Now hit that subscribe button and we can dive straight inside the very beginning. Tron officially entered the crypto world in September 2017, created by Justin Sun, a young entrepreneur from China who was already well known in tech circles. Unlike many blockchain projects that started quietly and only gained traction later, Tron arrived with bold claims and a massive vision right from day one. Its stated mission was to decentralize the internet, which meant giving people the ability to share digital content, such as videos or music, without relying on platforms like YouTube, Netflix, or Spotify. Instead of corporations acting as middlemen and taking big cuts, Tron promised that creators would be paid directly by their audiences through blockchain technology. To launch the project, Tron held what is called an initial coin offering, or ICO. This is when a new cryptocurrency is sold to the public before the project is fully built. Similar to a company raising money by selling shares before it launches its product. The ICO raised about $70 million, a huge amount at the time. And this money gave Tron both credibility and financial resources to build its own blockchain. However, this early period wasn't free from controversy. Crypto analysts quickly accused Tron of copying sections of its white paper, which is the document explaining how a project works, from other projects like Ethereum and Filecoin. Critics argued that Justin Sun was overhyping Tron and using flashy marketing more than solid technology. Still, hype in crypto matters, and Sun was a master at generating attention. He was already known as a protege of Jack Ma, the billionaire founder of Alibaba, and had built a reputation as a skilled promoter. While skeptics dismissed Tron as just another overmarketed project, thousands of investors were intrigued by its ambitious goals and low entry price. By the end of 2017, Tron had climbed into the top 20 cryptocurrencies by market cap, showing that regardless of criticism, it had managed to secure a place on the global stage. This explosive and controversial debut laid the foundation for everything that came after. Tron might not have arrived quietly, but it made sure the entire crypto world knew its name. After the initial launch in late 2017, Tron began its journey as what's called an ERC-20 token, meaning it was originally built on top of the Ethereum blockchain. This was a common path at the time, because creating your own blockchain from scratch is complex and time-consuming. Running as an ERC-20 token allowed Tron to gather users and developers quickly while preparing for its own independent network. But even during this early stage, Tron stood out because of its founder Justin Sun's relentless marketing. He constantly promoted Tron on social media, making bold promises about partnerships and growth, which captured global attention. The hype around Tron was enormous, but so were the controversies. Critics pointed out that sections of its white paper looked plagiarized from other blockchain projects. A white paper is like the blueprint of a cryptocurrency, so being accused of copying raised questions about how original Tron's technology really was. Many also accused Justin Sun of exaggerating or overpromising features that were not yet ready. While most blockchain teams at the time focused on quietly building their technology, Sun leaned heavily on publicity, drawing both excitement and skepticism. Despite these criticisms, Tron's popularity kept growing. Investors who missed out on early opportunities like Bitcoin or Ethereum were eager for the next big thing, and Tron's vision of decentralizing the internet was compelling. By early 2018, Tron's TRX token surged into the top 10 cryptocurrencies by market capitalization, briefly giving it a value of over $14 billion. This showed how powerful marketing and vision could be in crypto, even when the technology was still in development. At the same time, these early controversies planted seeds of doubt. Was Tron truly capable of delivering on its grand vision, or was it mostly smoke and mirrors driven by Justin Sun's charisma? The answer would only become clear once Tron managed to launch its own blockchain. That moment of truth came in 2018, when the project finally moved beyond Ethereum and became fully independent. By mid-2018, Tron faced a crucial moment that would determine whether it was just hype or a serious blockchain project. Until this point, TRX existed only as an ERC-20 token on Ethereum, meaning it was technically dependent on another blockchain. In June 2018, Tron finally launched its own mainnet, which is the independent blockchain that would power its entire ecosystem. This transition was called a token migration, where holders of the old Ethereum-based TRX swapped their tokens for the new native version that ran directly on the Tron blockchain. The launch of the Mainnet was more than just a technical upgrade. It was Tron's declaration of independence from Ethereum. The new blockchain introduced a system called Delegated Proof of Stake, or DPoS for short. Unlike Bitcoin, which uses proof of work where miners compete with powerful computers, DPoS works through community voting. TRX holders could freeze their tokens and vote for up to 27 validators, known as super representatives. These super representatives were then responsible for confirming transactions and keeping the network secure. The advantage of this system was speed and cost. Tron's mainnet could process thousands of transactions per second, with fees so low they were practically zero. This positioned Tron as one of the fastest and cheapest blockchains available at the time, especially compared to Ethereum, which was struggling with congestion and high gas fees. The community celebrated the successful launch, but not without criticism. Some argued that having only 27 super representatives meant Tron was too centralized, since power was concentrated in the hands of a small group. Others questioned whether the ecosystem had enough real use cases to justify such bold promises. Despite the skepticism, Tron's mainnet launch proved it was more than just marketing. It now had its own infrastructure capable of running decentralized applications, or dApps, and smart contracts, which are self-executing programs stored on the blockchain. This leap from being a token on Ethereum to becoming a fully independent blockchain gave Tron the credibility it had been lacking, setting the stage for its next big move, acquiring one of the largest peer-to-peer networks in the world. Not long after launching its own blockchain, Tron shocked the crypto world with one of the boldest moves in its history: the acquisition of BitTorrent in July 2018. BitTorrent is a peer-to-peer file sharing protocol created in the early 2000s, famous for powering a huge portion of global internet traffic by allowing people to share large files directly without relying on centralized servers. By the time Tron bought it for around $140 million, BitTorrent already had over 100 million active users worldwide. For a blockchain project that wanted to decentralize the internet, acquiring such a massive network of users looked like a perfect match. The idea was straightforward. If Tron could integrate blockchain into BitTorrent, it could bring millions of real people into the crypto world almost overnight. To push this vision, Tron created the BitTorrent token, or BTT, which would be used as an incentive for file sharers. Instead of relying only on goodwill, users could earn BTT for uploading files and pay BTT to speed up downloads. In theory, this would improve the efficiency of the entire network while also introducing blockchain-based economics to a mainstream audience. At first, the announcement of the acquisition generated huge excitement. It was seen as one of the rare cases where a blockchain project was directly connected to a popular internet service. BTT was quickly launched through Binance Launchpad in early 2019 and sold out in minutes, proving there was strong demand. But the integration was not as smooth as many hoped. Critics argued that most BitTorrent users simply wanted free file sharing and had little interest in blockchain tokens. Others pointed out that the overall user experience did not improve much with BTT, making adoption slower than expected. Even so, the BitTorrent deal showed how ambitious Justin Sun and the Tron team were willing to be. While many projects were building small ecosystems, Tron was buying one of the largest peer-to-peer platforms on the internet. This bold acquisition kept Tron in the spotlight and reinforced its image as a project unafraid of making giant moves to expand its reach. By 2019, Tron had moved past its launch phase and started building an actual ecosystem on top of its blockchain. The focus shifted to decentralized applications, commonly called dApps. These are apps that run on a blockchain instead of being controlled by a single company. The idea is that they are open, transparent, and resistant to censorship. Ethereum had been the leader in this space, but Tron quickly positioned itself as one of the top competitors thanks to its high speed and extremely low transaction costs. During this period, Tron became one of the busiest blockchains for dApp activity, especially in the categories of gambling, simple games, and high-frequency transactions. Because using Tron cost almost nothing, developers found it attractive for creating apps where users needed to interact many times a day without paying large fees. Gambling platforms in particular grew rapidly on Tron, since players could place thousands of small bets with no friction. This drove high transaction numbers and boosted demand for TRX, the native token of the network. Justin Sun proudly announced that Tron had surpassed Ethereum in terms of daily transaction volume, a claim that drew both excitement and criticism. Supporters saw it as proof that Tron was delivering real usage, while skeptics argued that many of the apps were low quality or repetitive, focusing more on speculative activity than real innovation. Another unique feature of Tron's ecosystem was its governance model. As mentioned earlier, the network relies on 27 validators called super representatives. These were voted in by TRX holders, giving the community some voice in how the blockchain was run. However, critics noted that the system often felt centralized, since only a small group held the power to validate all transactions. Still, the year marked an important milestone. Tron was no longer just a bold promise or a flashy acquisition story. It had grown into one of the top blockchains for real activity, with millions of daily transactions and an expanding ecosystem of dApps. While not every app was groundbreaking, Tron had proven that it could attract both developers and users, laying the foundation for its next big breakthrough, becoming the backbone for stablecoin usage. While 2019 proved that Tron could attract developers and users, the years 2020 and 2021 revealed its true killer feature, stablecoins. A stablecoin is a type of cryptocurrency designed to keep its value equal to a traditional currency like the US dollar. The most widely used example is Tether, also known as USDT. Instead of swinging up and down in price like Bitcoin or Ethereum, one USDT is always worth about $1, making it perfect for payments, trading, and savings. Ethereum had been the primary home for stablecoins, but high gas fees became a serious problem. Simple transfers that should cost pennies often ballooned to tens of dollars, which priced out many everyday users. Tron stepped in as a faster and nearly free alternative. On Tron's network, USDT was issued as what's called a TRC20 token, and sending it typically cost less than a fraction of a cent. This made it far more practical for people who needed to move money quickly and cheaply. The results were explosive. By 2021, more USDT transactions were happening on Tron than on Ethereum, even though Ethereum was still considered the more advanced blockchain. This shift was especially visible in regions like Asia, Africa, and Latin America, where people relied on stablecoins as digital dollars for remittances, online business, and day-to-day payments. Instead of going through banks, which often charge high fees and take days to process international transfers, users could send USDT on Tron instantly at almost no cost. This moment defined Tron's role in the crypto industry. While other blockchains chased trends like decentralized finance or NFTs, Tron carved out a niche as the backbone for stablecoin payments. Critics still pointed out that Tron lacked cutting-edge innovation, but for millions of people around the world, it simply worked. And in crypto, practicality often matters more than hype. By the end of this period, Tron was no longer just an experimental platform with flashy marketing. It had become one of the largest settlement layers for digital dollars, a role that would cement its relevance for years to come. As Tron cemented itself as a major player in stablecoin transactions, it also found itself under a harsher spotlight. The very things that made Tron attractive to everyday users, near zero fees, global accessibility, and massive USDT usage, also drew attention from regulators who were increasingly worried about stablecoins disrupting the traditional financial system. Governments and financial watchdogs began raising questions about whether stablecoins like Tether were fully backed by reserves. And since most USDT activity was happening on Tron, the network could not avoid scrutiny. At the same time, Tron's leadership faced its own drama. In late 2021, Justin Sun, the founder and public face of Tron, announced that he would be stepping down from his role at the Tron Foundation, the nonprofit group that had been guiding the blockchain. Instead, he took on a new role as Grenada's ambassador to the World Trade Organization. This unexpected move surprised the crypto community and sparked speculation. Some believed Sun was distancing himself from Tron to avoid regulatory heat, while others saw it as a sign that he was ready to expand his influence beyond crypto. Even with Sun stepping back publicly, many critics argued that he continued to hold significant control behind the scenes. Tron had always faced criticism for being too centralized, since only 27 validators, called super representatives, controlled the network, and many believed Sun still influenced who held those roles. Supporters, however, pointed out that Tron's day-to-day operations continued smoothly, showing that the network could function without Sun being in the spotlight. This period highlighted the double-edged nature of Tron's success. On one hand, it had become a leading blockchain for global payments, especially through stablecoins. On the other, that same success drew regulatory and public scrutiny, and leadership changes left many wondering about the project's long-term direction. Still, Tron remained resilient and continued processing billions in daily value, proving that it was more than just one man's brand. In 2022, Tron announced one of its biggest structural changes, the dissolution of the Tron Foundation and the creation of something called the Tron DAO. A DAO, or Decentralized Autonomous Organization, is a governance system where decisions are supposed to be made collectively by token holders rather than a central authority. In theory, this was Tron's way of proving it was becoming fully decentralized after years of criticism that too much power rested in the hands of Justin Sun. With the launch of the Tron DAO, the foundation officially stepped back, and the responsibility of guiding the blockchain's future was handed to the community of TRX holders. This meant that proposals about upgrades, resource allocation, and development direction could be voted on openly. It was framed as a bold step toward transparency and democracy in how the network operated. However, not everyone was convinced. Critics argued that despite the new branding, Justin Sun still held outsized influence behind the scenes through his large TRX holdings and connections to many of the 27 super representatives who validate transactions. To them, the DAO looked more like a rebranding exercise than a true shift in power. Supporters, on the other hand, saw it as progress. Even if Sun remained influential, the fact that governance was now more formalized and open gave the community a larger voice than before. The Tron DAO also marked a turning point in Tron's global positioning. Instead of being led by a single nonprofit, Tron was now presented as a fully decentralized network run by its users. This move came at a time when decentralization was becoming a powerful buzzword in crypto, especially as other projects experimented with DAO governance. In practice, the decentralization push didn't drastically change how Tron was used. It still thrived mainly as a payments and stablecoin network. But symbolically, the creation of the Tron DAO was important. It showed Tron was willing to adapt to criticism and present itself as more aligned with the ideals of community-driven blockchain governance. In 2022, Tron entered the world of algorithmic stablecoins by launching USDD, a new digital dollar designed to maintain a one-to-one value with the US dollar. Unlike Tether or USDC, which are backed by real-world reserves such as cash and government bonds, USDD tried to keep its peg through an algorithm. This meant that when USDD dropped below $1, the system would encourage traders to burn TRX, Tron's native token, in exchange for USDD, reducing supply and pushing the price back up. When USDD went above $1, the process worked in reverse, minting more tokens to bring the price down. This design was directly inspired by Terra's UST, an algorithmic stablecoin that collapsed in spectacular fashion in May 2022. Because of that history, USDD was controversial from the very beginning. Supporters argued that Tron had learned from Terra's mistakes and added safeguards, such as collateral reserves in Bitcoin and other stablecoins. Critics, however, warned that no algorithmic system was immune to the risk of depegging, where the coin loses its $1 value. Their concerns were validated when USDD slipped below $1 multiple times during market stress, though it eventually recovered each time. Despite the risks, the introduction of USDD boosted Tron's presence in decentralized finance, often called DeFi. DeFi refers to financial services like lending, borrowing, and trading that run without banks, powered by smart contracts on blockchains. Tron's high speed and low fees made it attractive for stablecoin-focused DeFi platforms, where liquidity is everything. Billions of dollars in value began circulating through Tron-based DeFi apps, with USDD playing a central role. This expansion showed both sides of Tron's strategy. On one hand, it was bold enough to push into new areas like algorithmic stablecoins, which many other projects avoided after Terra's collapse. On the other, it reinforced Tron's reliance on stablecoins as the heart of its ecosystem. By the end of 2023, Tron had carved out a strong DeFi presence, though questions about stability and long-term sustainability of USDD remained open. By 2023 and 2024, Tron had quietly become one of the most used blockchains in the world, even if it didn't always grab the headlines like Ethereum, Solana, or other trendy projects. The reason was simple: stablecoin payments. At this point, the majority of Tether's USDT transactions were happening on the Tron network rather than Ethereum. Billions of dollars were being transferred every single day. often in small amounts used for peer-to-peer payments, online commerce, or remittances across borders. Remittances are when people working abroad send money back home to their families. And this is where Tron really shined. In countries across Asia, Africa, and Latin America, traditional banking systems are often slow, expensive, or inaccessible. Sending money through banks or services like Western Union could take days and cost anywhere from 5 to 10% in fees. On Tron, sending the same amount in USDT was nearly instant and cost less than a fraction of a cent. This made Tron one of the most practical financial tools for everyday people, even if they didn't care about crypto beyond its usefulness. Businesses also started relying on Tron for cross-border trade and settlements. In markets with unstable local currencies, holding digital dollars like USDT on Tron became a safer and cheaper alternative. The network's speed and reliability made it a preferred choice for merchants and freelancers in developing economies who simply needed a payment system that worked without constant delays or high costs. Despite this enormous real-world usage, Tron remained overshadowed in the media by flashier projects focused on NFTs, metaverse experiments, or cutting-edge decentralized apps. Critics often dismiss Tron as boring, centralized, or overly reliant on stablecoins. But supporters pointed out that being boring wasn't a bad thing if it meant the network was actually delivering value. By this stage, Tron's role in the global financial system was clear. It wasn't about hype or speculation. It was about payments, stability, and access, areas where it had quietly achieved dominance without needing to shout the loudest. Today, in 2025, Tron stands as one of the most widely used blockchains in the world, but it remains a project that sparks debate. On the practical side, Tron is processing billions of dollars in stablecoin transactions every month, often outpacing Ethereum in USDT volume. For millions of people in regions with weak banking systems, Tron has become the digital infrastructure for everyday payments. Workers abroad use it to send money home, small businesses use it to accept global payments, and individuals use it to protect their savings by holding stablecoins instead of local currencies that can quickly lose value. In this sense, Tron has become a no-nonsense payment network that simply works. But alongside this success are criticisms that refuse to go away. Many argue Tron is far too centralized compared to the ideals of blockchain. With only 27 validators known as super representatives, and Justin Sun still believed to hold significant influence, some see Tron as closer to a corporate payment system than a decentralized network. Others point out that Tron has not led the way in innovation the way Ethereum or newer chains like Solana have. It has fewer groundbreaking applications, and its ecosystem is often described as heavily dependent on stablecoin usage rather than diverse Web3 experiments. Supporters respond to these critiques by saying that Tron's simplicity is exactly why it thrives. Instead of chasing trends that may fade, Tron doubled down on providing fast, cheap, and reliable transfers. For its users, decentralization debates matter less than whether money arrives safely and instantly. In fact, this pragmatic approach is what kept Tron alive while many other hyped projects disappeared. So in 2025, Tron finds itself in a unique position. It may never be the darling of crypto media or the platform for experimental apps, but it has cemented itself as critical infrastructure in the real world. Practical, dependable, and yes, polarizing. Tron has shown that in crypto, success can come not from hype, but from meeting the simple need of moving money efficiently. And just like that, we've reached the end of today's video. You now understand how Tron went from a bold idea in 2017 to one of the most used payment networks in the entire world. If you want to keep learning, make sure to check out one of the 2 videos that just popped up on your screen. Also, don't forget to subscribe, like this video, and drop a comment with your thoughts. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.